Dowden family have been at Chulla Station since around 1880. They first came out here looking and assessing the country to see if there's any grazing potential. They came out on horseback from Port Denison originally. In the last 10 years we've expanded. We bought Windamurra Station, which is immediately east of Chulla Station, and we've incorporated the two and it's just run as one property now. Yeah, we've been around a while.
But this could be likely where the dynasty ends, because we've got 4 children, but none of them want to take the station on after we retire. So we might be the end of it.
More than likely, yeah.
Well, that's one of the motivations for me to be doing all of the work that I'm doing at the moment, with trying to record Ashley's knowledge and hold it in a document or in a series of documents so that it's not all lost when we retire. And that knowledge might be useful perhaps on this property, or perhaps someone else might use the knowledge. But 5 generations of knowledge is too much to lose when we go away.
It's a red meat enterprise. It's been a sheep station predominantly for most of its history. The cattle business really only started about 10 years ago when the wild dog problem got to the stage where we could no longer run small stock. So we were running sheep and some goats, and the dogs got to the stage where we just could no longer run small stock viably. So we transitioned into cattle, and so we run about 12,000 to 1,200 breeding cows, predominantly Santa Gertrudis. We were more of a Drought Master bloodline, but we're transitioning from Drought Master to Santa Gertrudis, using all Santa bulls now. And now with the HIR Carbon project, the landscape takes on a different perspective, where thicker country that was of no value for grazing or had very low grazing potential was seen as country that was, or coin a phrase, it was shit country. It was country that was of no real value to us. Where that country now has become some of the higher carbon sequestering country. So you actually take a lot more notice of what's going on out there. You actually consider in your production system that landscape now, and it's become much more important because it is actually returning a dollar, and revenue from that country in the past was almost zero. So the landscape has become important. It's another avenue of income or revenue.
Most of the time there's only the 2 of us running this property, so bringing in technology allows us to some extent be more efficient with what we're doing. And the first thing that we implemented probably about 15 years ago, we started using satellite water monitoring devices, and that means that we can sit at the office desk and we can check the levels of the tanks and just ensure that the tank levels are good and the cattle have got enough water, without actually physically having to drive around the property and look at the situation. So we're cutting down our mill runs. We used to do mill runs every 4 days, and we're down to about every 10 days we can do a mill run.
Yeah, the mill run itself was about 450 kilometres to check every watering point on the property. In summer, 450 k's every 4 days, it adds up, and we believe we're making in excess of $30,000 saving on fuel consumption alone, and that also contributes obviously to the human-induced regeneration. You have to account how much fuel you use is offset against the carbon credits that you sequester. Therefore, if we reduce our fuel consumption, it helps us with the human-induced regeneration as well. Also, the saving in man hours. I mean, it was almost a full-time job checking waters over summer. You wouldn't get a lot of time doing anything else, where now having to do it every 10 days is a big saving.
One of the things that we tried out a couple of years ago, we've got one here, are these little Ceres tags. Now they're satellite tracking ear tags that you can put in the cow's ears, and then every 6 or 12 hours you get an update of their position. And they've been really good in answering some of the questions that we've had about our cattle. Every cow has a number in its ear tag. When they came in the next year for the muster, we'd mark off their ear tags, and we found that the rate of mustering for our heifers was really low, and we didn't know what happened to them. We didn't know if they were dying. We didn't know if they were leaving the property and going elsewhere. We didn't have any data. And these satellite tracking ear tags, we put them in the heifers, and we found out that actually they're just pretty hard to muster. They're still on the property. They don't leave the property. They settle in on a watering point, and we can follow their habits. Goes towards answering some of the questions that we have about cattle management here. Without the satellite tracking tags, you just don't know where your cattle are going and what they're doing. You see them once a year when you muster, and occasionally you'll see them on a mill run.
It's also really useful to find out where they go in the landscape, into what land systems, to see what kind of plants they're grazing or browsing on. That information has been really, really interesting to see where they go and where they move, what areas they tend to like to hang out in. And by understanding where they are predominantly, we sort of get a better handle on what they eat. And that's then led to
the Diet ID project, which is in conjunction with UWA. We've taken fecal samples from the cattle that had the Ceres tags. So we've been able to track where they've been going, and being able to get the fecal samples when we muster, and then analyse the plant DNA inside those fecal samples. We're just starting to learn so much about this landscape with the assistance of technology, and it will inform our future management decisions. It'll enable us to determine the key indicator species, the ones that the cows prefer to eat. We'll put a heavier emphasis on measuring those in the landscape, because they're the ones that are the most threatened by the cattle if we're not managing our cattle properly. A little bit over 20 years ago, we started doing monitoring of our landscapes. So this involved taking a photo and going out and identifying the individual plants and counting the number of plants in a given area and comparing them year after year after year. And we've got something like 48 monitoring sites on this property. It usually takes us 5 or 6 days to cover all of the monitoring sites. And so that led to the development of our automated biodiversity monitoring sites. And we've got 4 of them around the station at the moment, and they're really early stage prototypes. But each of these monitoring sites has a soil carbon probe, a soil moisture probe, a weather station, and a fixed camera that takes photos at set intervals and also motion activated. These get beamed up to the cloud, and then there's a bunch of people in the Access Tech office in Perth who are teaching the machines to identify the different plant species. So my dream in the future is to go out with my iPhone, take a photo, zoom it up to the cloud, and then the machines interpret all of the information and come back with some data that I can use. It gives us a really good, accurate measure of how our landscape's performing. It's really exciting though, because it fits in with how we manage our cattle, how we manage our landscape, and how the whole thing works together for that goal of producing red meat in perpetuity. We are incredibly privileged to live in this environment. It's tough, it's harsh, but it's real and it's so beautiful. We're so lucky to have this incredible country to just be custodians of for this very short, minute second in history that we're here.